Now let's continue talking about costing. Now we're going to refer back to the predetermined overhead rate. And the predetermined overhead rate is again used for the purpose of allocating the total MOH to a specific job or specific process. This kind of is referred to as a traditional costing method. So direct materials and direct labor costs are directly traceable to a product or service. We know that they're direct costs. However, manufacturing overhead being indirect is not traceable to a specific job or process. So in that case, we have to allocate them to the product or the service. Now, this again uses the predetermined overhead rate. And the POR is the total expected overhead. So if we lump all of our overhead costs, or what we think is going to be there, into one lump sum, we're going to divide it by one single total expected activity base. The problem with that is that not all manufacturing overhead is cause and effect of a single activity base. We're just making the assumption that it is. It's easier. Manufacturing overhead costs aren't directly affected by one single activity base. That's the issue. So how do we get past this? How do we do something a little bit more accurate? Well, the alternative would be what's called an activity-based costing method. And this identifies major activities that cause overhead costs to be incurred. What we're doing is instead of breaking it down, or instead of lumping them all together and saying these are all going to be distributed through this one single base that sometimes doesn't have any effect on the cost, we're going to actually break them down into activities, and each activity is going to have their own cost base, making it more accurate. So this allocates a portion of the manufacturing overhead to each activity using individual activity rates.